Help Me was created here in the classroom at Temple University a number of years ago, really based on trying to capture and measure what was happening in teams, and was ultimately funded by the Fox School of Business. And it's a real-time feedback app. There's a lot that's changing in business right now when you look at the annual performance appraisal. A lot of people say that it's dying, it's going away because it's very static. It doesn't allow you to move at the fast pace of business, move with the complexity that's happening in business today. And so this app was meant to capture interactions as they happen in the workplace and categorize them by competency and behavior that rolls up into the key business drivers. And so part of our role in HR is to identify what's critical to making the business run well, to driving sales, driving profits. And whenever we can use the HR processes to help with that, we're really doing our job. And that's what the app does, is it allows you to identify what's critical in the business and then to map out those competencies and behaviors, put them into an app where people can give, seek, and receive feedback amongst each other and have instant metrics, both individually as well as an aggregate as an organization. And it really fits into needs that millennials have and that the iGens have for much more feedback, to be much more connected to the purpose of the business, to have a coach, and to be comfortable giving and receiving feedback via digital devices. Some of the work we're doing shows that the iGen, that over 85% of the iGen have emotional conversations where they're giving and receiving feedback via digital medium. And over 15% think that they're very skilled at that, and over 50% think they're skilled at that. So the way we're communicating is changing, and as HR leaders, if we're not out in front of helping to manage that productively, we're not going to be adding the kind of value that we should be adding. Yeah, well, it's been growing at a very accelerated rate. We've been out doing research. We've published research papers on the app itself and how feedback has been sought and given and received. We've worked with anywhere from small companies up into large Fortune 500 companies. We're partnered with Accenture right now. From a consulting standpoint, they're channel partners of ours, so they're offering the app to their clients, and we're working with them to provide solutions. So it's going extremely well. It's still relatively new, and it's right now more early adopters, and then you'll see other organizations start to follow. I think HR is most valuable when you're focused on what's driving the business. And so we tailor the competencies and behaviors in the app to the business objectives. So we're working with hospitals on the healthcare revenue cycle. We're working with clinicians in hospitals on how to better enhance effectiveness through all the different clinical departments, for the operating room, pharmacy, radiology, patient transport, et cetera, are all using the app based on what's important to them. We're working with institutions of higher education, so it's focused on student curriculum. We're using it to expand profit margins for companies. Sales forces are using it to drive sales coaching behaviors from their sales managers to their sales representatives, and retention behaviors from their representatives back up to their sales managers. So it's really tailored on what's important to the business, and it gives real-time data based on those measurements that then also can be linked to performance outcomes. Yeah, technology is critical, and it's moved the talent acquisition field forward at quantum leaps, especially as it relates to how we can identify candidates and identify the candidates that we want for our hiring managers or our clients. So I think you have to understand the technology, you have to understand the inputs into that to be able to get the right candidates to surface. However, there's still a lot of skills that are needed that run in parallel with the technology that you have to have. One is you've got to be able to have great conversations with hiring managers who's going to make the final decision on that candidate. You got to know what great looks like for them. So you've got to ask really powerful questions. You got to listen and then ask very detailed follow-up questions, and you got to know their business. You can't do that if you don't understand the business that they're in or the function that they're in. Once you do that, you can find the great candidates that other people can't find. But then you have to get them attracted to that position and to the organization. And a lot of times the best candidates aren't looking. Their heads are down, they're excelling, and they don't need a job. So you've got to be able to have great conversations with them where you can articulate the brand. You can talk about the value proposition. You can paint the hiring manager in a realistic and yet an attractive way from a talent magnet perspective. So I think we're going to have to continue to exhibit skills where the human interactions walk hand in hand with the technology in talent acquisition. I think first of all, you got to know the business and the market. If you just want to stay in the corner with the HR stuff, you're not going to be relevant, and you'll be relegated to a second-class citizen. So you got to know the business as well as the CFO knows it, the sales vice president, the president, whomever you're working with at your level at the time. But you got to know the business inside and out. You got to know how we make money. You got to know what our product is. You got to know how we differentiate ourselves in the marketplace. You need to ride with salespeople, and you need to be on the manufacturing floor or in the retail locations. And that's the first step. If you do that, you're going to be relevant. Then you have to take all the different levers we have, whether it's compensation and benefits or talent acquisition or training and development or leadership, and you have to be an expert in those areas. Most all of them are rapidly changing, whether it's comp and benefits, which have become extremely expensive and very complex, that they're a major line item on a company's profit and loss statement, to talent acquisition. Based on the cycle that we're in, are we having to fight for the best talent at a very aggressive way? So are you familiar with how to brand the company? From a leadership standpoint, the leader of the future is going to be the digital leader. This is going to be the person who works more in agile networks of teams. So you have people that are reporting to you, but they're out working in other teams, and hierarchy is going to be eroded in my perspective. And so you're going to have to connect people in a different way. Technology is going to be critical to that. You're going to have to influence without formal authority, even at a greater level than we already do. And you're going to have to use all the tools from a technology standpoint to manage communications in an organized way that aligns with what the business is trying to do, that helps us to create shared values and shared vision. Yeah, I can recall a lot of them, for sure. I think if you're not making mistakes, you're probably not trying enough things. So I've made many mistakes, and I guess rather than pick a single one, it's probably better to think about it this way, in that my biggest mistakes were when I made mistakes and I didn't learn anything from those mistakes, and or I tried to rationalize off the mistake as somebody else's problem and I didn't own it myself. So I think the key is you're going to make lots of mistakes. You want to learn from them, and you want to make sure that you stand up, take accountability for it, no matter what the consequences are, and don't rationalize it or try and blame somebody else for the mistake.